We have a quorum. I want to welcome everybody to the joint meeting for the Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee of the Whole. And this will be the last time I get to make that introduction. And can we have a roll call, please?
Arenas? Cohen?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Perales?
Here.
Jones?
Present.
All right.
Okay. We are going to start out by reviewing the agenda for Tuesday, December 13th. And we're going to start out on pages 4 and 5. 6 and 7. 8 and 9. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. 16 and 17. 18 and 19.
Vice Mayor, the administration would like to note that the memorandum for item 3.4 will be put out this Friday. It is late as we're working through last minute adjustments, but we do have the flexibility to submit this one after the normal date.
Thank you. 20 and 21. 22 and 23. 24 and 25. 26 and 27. 28 and 29. 30 and 31. 32 and 33. And when we have a motion, will the maker of the motion please remember that there's an ad sheet and we also have an 11 o'clock start time. We're going to go to public comments.
Blair Beekman? Blair, go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thank you. It took a while for the unmute to show up. Thank you. In this possibly being the last Rules and Open Government meeting of Vice Mayor Jones, and it also being December 7th, I hope I can offer a good farewell to Vice Mayor Jones at this time and his 8-year tenure on this committee and his 3+ years as its chair. I hope that into our future, we may all want to consider how December 7th, 1941 can be a day of remembering good accountability and forgiveness, and from this and how we can better address what can always be an uncertain future. I wanted to speak on, you'll be doing a review of the electronic billboard issue. When this issue was first approved, I think back in April and March, things were a little tough. And I hope that we're learning how we can talk about its data collection practices a little easier as needed. And in actuality, how it's connected to the bundling of law enforcement data collection practices at the national level. We really try to work towards good sanctuary city policies and good civil protections at the local level that civic innovation and city government likes to talk about, but they don't yet know how to well talk about that these data collection processes are then bundled at the national level and sold. And that leaves us a bit high and dry with any sort of better guarantees of civil protection rights for ourselves. And I keep trying to say the city of Berkeley has actually been working on such an issue for the past year, and they've accomplished some things. They've actually made some safeguards and to better improve the process for everyday community. So I keep trying to say it's a subject we don't have to fear. The guy who spoke about these issues from the ALPR company back in October, he did a terrible job in talking about it. It was shameful because you guys are actually really trying to be more honest as you can about it. And for him, what he said made things difficult. Good luck to really want to be honest with the public in the future on these things. Thanks.
Minister Cherry Murphy.
Good afternoon. My name is Minister Sherry Murphy, and I'm a social justice minister and an organizer for Gig Workers Rising. My voice represents over 20,000 gig workers who are committed to better health and safety conditions for both drivers and passengers. I'm speaking on behalf of Agenda regarding protecting the public from sexual assaults associated with Uber, Lyft, and taxis. In April of this year, we
I'm sorry.
released a report.
Sorry, that's not the topic we're on. We will be getting to that topic. This is
Okay,
on
thank you.
anything related to the agenda.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Before I entertain a motion, I have to ask one last time to the city manager's office. Lee, has this agenda been properly load balanced? And are there any items that we can move out to January? Or another option is to move the whole agenda out to January.
That is the choice of the Rules Committee, if you'd like to do that. We do believe with an 11 a.m. start time that the council would be able to finish business at a reasonable hour, however.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, bringing it to my colleagues.
I'll move approval of the agenda with the ad sheet.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Arenas.
Vice Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
I wanted to see if we could have items C5 through C9 be heard together.
Yes, we can discuss that. Let's take the vote for the agenda, and then after we get past consent, we can discuss consolidating those items.
Oh,
Does that
great.
work?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arenas.
Yes, yes.
Cohen.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the consent calendar. Let's go to the public.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. You have your monthly audit report in here this month. Thank you. As I always try to say, there's just a cornucopia of good ideas that are within the monthly auditor's reports. There's just good reference and enjoyable reading and just things to see what's the city, good things the city's really working on to understand good community projects. I invite yourselves to really check it out each month. It's there. You also have an item on homeless transparency, budgeting homeless and for its funding to be transparent in the future. I think that's on consent. Thank you for that. That's really cool and interesting, I think, because we are going to be receiving a lot more funding and there's a lot more money that's possible at this time. And I keep begging yourselves to really, if you just practice your basic fundamentals of what you've been trained to do, and that's to house people, really want to house people and really, follow their story from beginning to end. That's a concept that was mentioned in previous public meetings recently, that to learn to do those sort of things, just the fundamentals, just really learn how to do that well. We have the money to do that well now. We should organize ourselves to do that well now. And I wish you luck how to do that. Because if we can start housing people in 2 to 5 year increments instead of 1 to 2 year increments with subsidy help, that's the good stuff. That's why you're taking these jobs as housing department persons. So good luck in those efforts. Good luck in Santa Clara County's ideas of housing low-income families, almost all income families by 2025. I think it's a good role model for ourselves. Thanks for your.
For those on Zoom, again, we're just taking comment on the consent calendar. Paul Soto?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I would like to just request that at the budgetary, the item on the consent calendar that has to do with the city budget, that we need to start normalizing racial equity principles within the context of budget allocations. We can't be at a point where we're saying, okay, well, we'll consider racial equity budgeting when we finished everything else. That's not how this works. It may work for you, for the city, but it doesn't work for the issues that the racial equity principles were designed to amend. And so we really need to, and I'll help you with that. I can see that the city needs a lot of help in this area, and that's what I'm for. I'm here to advocate to ensure that racial equity principles and the historical injustices and deficits that were created by racial inequity are serviced through the budgetary process. We'll get there. I guarantee you, we will get there. But you need somebody, a representative from the Racial Equity Office at this particular meeting. That's what I'm asking for, and I'm going to expect it. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Move approval. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Arenas?
Yes.
9 is your desire to speak to all those items at one time.
Yes, that would be wonderful. We can bifurcate maybe one of those. And I think it's actually, I think it's C5. And then hear the rest
Okay.
together.
And Nora, would that work in terms of the councilman would speak to those consolidated items, and will we have public comments? Just one public comment for all the items that are consolidated in one committee discussion, or how would that work?
It actually could go either way, depending on how the chair wants to handle the meeting and whether or not the chair and the council consider the items to be so discrete that they should be handled separately, and whether or not presentations, it sounds like all the presentations will be done together. And so comment would probably be over everything, but that would depend if there's one of those you want to break out and hold public comments separately, that could be done.
Great, thank you. All right, well, let's tackle C1 first, which is protecting the public from sexual assaults associated with Uber, Lyft, and taxis. And before I go to public comments, I wanted to give staff, Lee, an opportunity. I know that you have a early consideration form on this, so I want you to speak to this first.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Staff does have an early consideration form out on this item. We have highlighted green. And if the Rules Committee has any further questions, Deputy Chief Washburn from the Police Department is here to answer them.
Okay. I will give the mayor an opportunity, since he's graciously here in person to join us, an opportunity to speak to the items.
I'm happy to hear from the public if the committee would like to hear from the public first, or alternatively, we can present starting with Deputy Chief Washburn, whatever you prefer.
I'd prefer to start with Deputy Chief Washburn.
Okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm Elle Washburn, Deputy Chief of the Bureau of Investigations with the San Jose Police Department. Chair Jones and Vice Chair Perales, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee today. With me today is Senior Analyst Angeli Montesa Donzanti and the Sexual Assaults Investigative Unit Commander Kenny Tran. We, the San Jose Police Department, support this initiative. When a sexual assault occurs, law enforcement has two distinct but equally important responsibilities. First, we work to take dangerous predators off the streets of our community to prevent further victimization. When a sexual assault occurs during a rideshare, we must ask ourselves, is this the first time the offender has committed such an act? Will the predatory behavior become increasingly violent? And how many more people will become victimized if law enforcement does not interrupt the cycle of violence? Our second goal is that of safeguarding survivors. Protecting survivors and protecting public safety are not mutually exclusive. When a survivor contacts a rideshare company to disclose a sexual assault, our hope is that notification to law enforcement is contemporaneous, not well after an initial investigation by a rideshare company, thus creating a scenario where the survivor is re-traumatized by having to disclose in detail the violent acts committed upon them. The investigation should be completed by a San Jose Police Department officer, not an employee of a public company. Our detectives receive approximately 30 weeks of training in the academy, followed by an additional 80 specialty hours before they are qualified to interview a survivor of sexual assault. Survivors are not compelled to participate in the judicial process, nor is their receiving resources contingent upon their cooperation. When a survivor comes in contact with law enforcement, they will be met with an officer who is trained in trauma-informed care. The survivor does not have to be interviewed at the police station, but rather they can go to a place of comfort and privacy. The survivor can have a person of their choice with them for support, and we also provide an in-house advocate with whom we partner to be present during any and all interviews. We can offer the interview in their native tongue if they are not comfortable or proficient in English. We can offer a medical exam free of charge. We can offer a forensic exam free of charge. This evidence can be collected and safely stored for a time when the survivor does decide to participate in the judicial process. We can connect survivors to counseling and other short and long-term resources made available by the city and county. We work in concert with the District Attorney's Office to streamline the process for survivors. And finally, we offer a safety plan and a restraining order if the suspect is known for each and every survivor so they can feel more secure following a sexual assault. We want survivors to know their rights. As you can see, we are more than an investigation. Simply put, we want to ask, would you like a report, and how can we help? For this to happen, we need to be engaged in the process, and so let us continue this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I will now.
Could I also ask, since the District Attorney's Office has been very involved with this as a public agency, if we could hear from the District Attorney's Office as well? That'd be.
Are they?
Yes, Assistant District Attorney Terry Harmon, who oversees sexual assault.
Yes, please.
Is here. Thank you. As well as
come
Tasia
down.
Wiggins, who handles victim assistance. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Perfect. Good afternoon. My name is Terry Harmon. I'm an assistant district attorney, and I oversee our sexual assault unit. We come here today in support because it is necessary. We come here today out of necessity. What started as a question about data, which is we looked at the sexual assaults Uber reported as having occurred on their platform, and we compared that to the sexual assaults we had received, we learned that there is a minimum of 60 cases from 1 year that we never saw. Crimes, sexual assault, grabbing, penetration, everything listed in Uber's description of what they consider to be a sexual assault are the same acts that we consider to be crimes. So this was not our first stop. We went to Uber and Lyft to talk about this, to share our concerns, to see if maybe there was a misunderstanding or if there was something that could be cleared up. And they were not interested. They were grossly unhelpful. What became clear to us is that the rideshare companies have started their own system of justice. Now, there's no police involved in this justice system. There's no meaningful services to victims. There's no accurate information given to victims. There's no judges. There's no courthouse. There's no accountability, and there is no protection for future sexual assault victims. This is the rideshare justice system, which is about protecting the corporation and not protecting the community. So we come here out of necessity because they are not interested in changing the way they do business, because the way they do business is good for business. It protects their reputation at the cost of our community and our sexual assault victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Tasha Wiggins is the Director of Victim Services for the District Attorney's Office.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I think it's really important to talk about where we have common ground and where we would like to find common ground on behalf of victims. I believe it's important to point out that the common ground we have with our victim services partners, perhaps out there, is that we also believe that victims should have every possibility to exercise their agency to speak to whomever they want. However, we disagree on how and when this could happen. We believe that victims should be provided with appropriate information to support to make an informed decision regarding how and when they choose to exercise their agency to speak to whomever they want regarding what happened to them. I appreciate the victim services groups out there, organizations that are advocating for victims who will choose to never talk with police. However, I'm here today to talk about those who would, if given the opportunity. Now, that opinion of all doesn't represent all. We want to find the common ground regarding reaching victims who would talk to the police. The reality is that there are victims who would talk with law enforcement once they have the appropriate support and information to do so. I say this to you out of 26 plus years of working with victims of all types of crime, adults and children, who very often throughout that process begin the criminal justice process saying, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to go through the process. But in the end, when we sit with them and we talk about them, about all of their concerns, we find a way to build a bridge over those fears that help them get to what they ultimately want, which is typically to feel safe from the person who harmed them, and knowing that that person can't harm anybody else, with the added possibility or actuality of holding them accountable. The problem with Uber and Lyft's current practice of not reporting incidents of sexual assault to police is based on what I believe to be a flawed, misguided, overreaching assumption that all victims who report to Uber without also reporting to the police fall into that category of, I won't ever talk to police. That simply isn't true. My 26 years says that. The flaw is assuming all. The reality is some would. Now, the concern is that assumption is not allowing for those that would talk to law enforcement if they received that trauma-informed call that we heard about. Letting them know what their rights are, what their options are, and, by the way, that there are services available to them in that moment. They can have somebody sit with them while they're talking to the police. And they are going to have services throughout and beyond, whether it's the victim services programs that are out in the community or whether it's the victim services program at the district attorney's office. The challenge today is finding that common ground. We hope there is common ground among all of us to allow those who would speak to police to have that opportunity, to receive the kind of call that we just heard about so that they can make their decision to exercise their agency, to speak to law enforcement who will, as we've heard, treat them with dignity and respect. And they will be believed. They'll have a different experience than what they might be concerned about, given the proper support and information. We are talking about all of those victims who ultimately would choose to talk with law enforcement to have that different outcome. The concern I hold, if this doesn't happen, there will be victims who would have talked to law enforcement who are going to be left with a lingering question of what if, fill in the blank. What if I run into that offender again who was just taken off a list and that's all that happened, a rideshare list? What if that offender harms someone, right? What if I reported that to law enforcement way back? Would I feel safer today? You know, are they holding the concern, the larger concern that many of us do? What about public safety? You know, we need to do what we can to prevent further crimes. So I'm hoping we can all come to the table to find a better solution, because right now it's just a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
I'm happy to wait until after the public comments. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to public comments.
Minister Sherry Murphy. Minister Sherry?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Minister Sherry Murphy, and I'm a social justice minister and an organizer for Gig Workers Rising. I was also a sexual assault advocate and the director of victim witness program in the DA's office. My voice represents over 20,000 gig workers who are committed to improve public safety for both drivers and passengers. In April of this year, we released a report ringing an alarm on an urgent safety crisis. More than 50 app workers have been killed on the job since 2017. Now today, that number is more closer to 60. The research also shows that more than 60% of those killed were people of color, although they comprise less than 39% of the overall workforce in the US economy. In addition, 31% had been sexually harassed, along with 63% ended a refuse a ride because they felt unsafe. I agree with the DA's office that they do business at the cost of the community. However, recent comments by the mayor and district attorney mischaracterized the safety issue as a one-sided and only affecting passengers. To that end, I'm here to call on city leaders to join Gig Workers Rising and members of the Congress to work with us on efforts to make both passengers and riders safe. I urge any policy must be in partnership with Gig Workers Rising, and I stand in solidarity with the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence and Silicon Valley Debug opposing this measure as it is. We need to support the most safe and equitable strategy possible for all of its constituents. Thank you.
Melissa Luke. Melissa? Going on to the next speakers.
Hello, my name is Melissa Luke, and I'm the CPO Healing and Justice at the YWCA Golden Gate, Silicon Valley. I'm here today to urge the committee to pursue data-driven policy making. A few questions for your consideration. How many sexual assault survivors have told the committee that they want to engage in the criminal justice system? How many have chosen not to reach out to law enforcement because they want to seek justice and healing on their own terms? If the city wants to know how many sexual assaults occur in Ubers or Lyfts, how can we answer that question with a citizen's consent and without putting their privacy at risk? As the memo notes, the data supporting this ordinance is an extrapolation. Also, what is the system's current capacity to seek justice on behalf of survivors? In 2019, the city's Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee reported that the clearance rate for sexual assaults in San Jose was only 6.7%. This is not meant to be a reflection on the dedication of our partners on the ground. We know how hard they work and how much they care. However, policy is nothing without practice, and effective practice requires time to plan and strong data. That said, we urge you to slow this process down and consider all relevant data points in your decision-making. Thank you.
Cesar, followed by Adriana.
Hi, my name is Cesar Palancares. I am an organizer with Gig Workers Rising. In the last 3 months, the New York Times and the Mercury have published articles addressing the high number of Uber and Lyft customers that have been reported being sexually assaulted by drivers. However, both articles blatantly ignore the fact that rideshare drivers are at the highest risk of being sexually harassed and assaulted while on the job. Drivers working for these companies are in desperate need of safety protections. Recent comments by Major Liccardo and District Attorney Rosen mischaracterize this safety issue as one-sided and only affecting passengers. Safety should not be a privilege set aside for paying customers, but a commitment made to all of us. Drivers and riders, by solely focusing on protecting passengers, you villainize the thousands of Uber and Lyft drivers working in the Bay Area that prioritize the safety and comfortability of their passengers. The majority of these drivers are good, hardworking people looking to take care of themselves and their families. Any decision to improve public safety that exclude these workers is a poor policy. Uber and Lyft have continuously ignored the responsibility to keep drivers safe. We commend the City Council for looking to step up where companies have failed, but demand that you step up for all of us that are in need of your help. Thank you very much.
Adriana, followed by Christine.
Hi, my name is Adriana Caldera, and I serve as CEO for YWCA Golden Gate, Silicon Valley. As the largest rape crisis center in Santa Clara County, we are grateful for our partners and for their dedication in improving our community's response to address sexual assaults. However, I am very disappointed that this memorandum was created and introduced without meaningful collaboration or consultation involving victim service providers. Implying that victim support organizations are in support of this memorandum when they are not is disingenuous at best. Co-opting language such as victim-centered and trauma-informed without direct action rings hollow. This policy has the potential to set a dangerous precedent to mandate that survivors engage with law enforcement and that their personal information be shared without consent. No other city government that I am aware of has attempted to introduce a policy like this, and no other private business is a mandated reporter for adult sexual assaults, and this should remain. Why is there a push for implementation without the necessary work of building a workable policy that works for the entire community? Healing, justice, and support comes in many different forms. Survivors deserve to have options that are centered in their voice and choice. Survivors should be able to choose if they want to engage with law enforcement and the criminal justice system. We need to trust survivors and develop policies that center their voice and healing. Thank you.
Christine, followed by Blair.
Chambers appears to be muted. We're not hearing on Zoom from Chambers right now. So we can't hear you call the names. That's why there's been a delay.
Okay.
Christine,
Can you let me know when I should speak?
I think you can go ahead.
yes, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Christine Smith with the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, and we join to express our strong opposition to the proposed ordinance. Along with the previous speaker, we wanted to express that victims' rights groups have not been consulted. Victims, advocates, and experts in domestic violence and sexual assault prevention and response have made it clear time and time again to our partners in government and law enforcement that our first responsibility must be to protect the dignity of survivors by restoring agency that has already been wrenched away from them. Institutions for promoting best practices for trauma and institutions responsible for promoting best practices for trauma-informed care understand that empowering survivors to make their own choices about what treatment to seek and what systems to involve is an essential part of the healing journey. Taking away choices or compelling people to participate against their will is a serious risk for re-traumatization. For survivors of sexual violence, privacy and confidentiality of their personal information is more than just an expectation. It's a matter of personal safety and security. Rather than compelling survivors to report their incidents to law enforcement, the City of San Jose and any other government entities should be encouraging rideshare and taxi companies to create or expand partnerships with sexual assault providers. Thank you for your time, and please, I urge you to oppose this.
Blair, followed by Amy.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. A lot of good public comment today on this item. I was I was interested in the report. I've never heard this report before, what's going on with this issue, and I was just going to offer a few words that I think have been spoken much better by the previous public comment persons. Thank you. I was going to offer concepts that for all your good intentions that government wants to do with this issue, and that sounds like is needed. There's a sensitivity involved in how to work on these issues that good luck how to do that. Good luck to make the needed steps to different community violence prevention groups that can help you in this process, and I think can really help soften and make for a sensitive purpose and good purpose that Uber just simply may need some help with this issue and some counseling themselves, of what is good practices and for those connections to be made together, good luck how to work in those good terms and to figure out those good terms. And obviously this is a really important issue. So I think you will be working towards these good efforts. Good luck how we can do this. And I guess that's about all for myself. Thank you.
Amy, followed by Erica.
Hi, my name is Amy McLean, and I'm the COO at the YWCA Golden Gate Silicon Valley. I'd like to actually speak to the memo's assertion that there's a corporate alliance between rideshare companies and sexual assault survivor advocates. We need corporate America to help prevent sexual violence. The idea that our organizations, that nonprofits have been bought is untrue, and quite frankly, it's an insult to frontline advocates everywhere. What is true is that the rideshare companies have worked closely with advocacy agencies to create policies that actually follow best practices and are survivor-centered. These advocate agencies are state and national experts in this discipline and field. That includes Valor, our state rape crisis coalition, and RAIN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization and operator of the National Sexual Assault Hotline. While we don't know why the mayor and DA's office have chosen to move forward with this without our input, and to disregard best practice and discredit the voice of survivors and their advocates, I strongly urge you to stop this proposal from moving forward to protect survivor choice and voice. And at the very least, include confidential rape crisis organizations. Get us at the table to develop a new one. Thank you for your time.
Erica, followed by John.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Elliott, and I'm the Sexual Assault and Prevention Director at Community Solutions. I commend the City and Council's role in the last several years to increase awareness and improve systems and prevent sexual assault. I would like to call attention today to the fact that there are several federal acts which have helped address systematic issues around sexual assault, like the Prison Rape Elimination Act, Campus Save Act, and the Army Sexual Harassment Assault Response and Prevention, which all allow choice for survivors to seek services and report without requiring mandatory reporting to law enforcement. In fact, the California Education Code 67383 mentioned in the memo from the mayor also has a section that states the report shall be forwarded to the appropriate law enforcement agency without identifying the victim, unless the victim consents to being identified after the victim has been informed of his or her right to have their personal identifying information withheld. Additionally, all of these acts and codes introduce preventative steps that outline clear procedures for any processes. We need to ensure that any policy pushed forward is responsive to survivor rights, allows for informed choice, and takes other preventative steps to protect all individuals who utilize ride sharing or taxis. Please work with partners to develop a policy that includes options and is thoughtful of all individuals that may be impacted by this issue. Thank you very much for your consideration.
John, followed by Lindsay.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Jones, members of the Rules Committee. My name is John Finley, and I'm the California Public Policy Manager at Uber. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. I'm here today to respectfully oppose the proposed ordinance requiring rideshare and taxi companies to automatically disclose all reports of sexual assault to law enforcement without the survivor's consent. Let me begin by saying that Uber is committed to safety and does not tolerate sexual assault or misconduct. Our written testimony provides a thorough overview of our response to reports of sexual assault and the extensive resources we provide for survivors. Specifically, we're clear with survivors that the choice to report to law enforcement is theirs alone. We tell them, and I'm quoting directly from the communications submitted in our comments, quote, "We believe the decision to report to law enforcement is entirely up to you. If you decide to report this to police, please provide law enforcement with our online portal address, lert.uber.com. Through this portal, they can connect with our law enforcement response team to request information they may need for an investigation," end quote. There is no room for confusion that a report to Uber will somehow trigger a report to law enforcement. Our opposition to this ordinance is grounded in what we've heard from safety advocates and survivor groups. Namely, 1, this ordinance removes survivor choice, forcing them into contact with law enforcement, even if they expressly ask Uber not to share their details with law enforcement. 2, it disregards survivor privacy by requiring us to share their name, contact details, and deeply personal reports of assault, regardless of their consent. And 3, it will have a chilling effect on people reporting sexual assaults, as you've already heard from advocates today and will continue to hear. The choice to report a sexual assault is a deeply personal decision. No company, prosecutor, or politician should be making that choice for a survivor. This ordinance removes that choice entirely. We ask the council to hold this file until it does the necessary work with advocates and with industry. Thank you very much.
Lindsay, followed by Kendra.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Mansfield, the Director of Healing and Justice at YWCA and co-chair of our county's SART committee. As a survivor and someone who has worked with survivors now for over 15 years and has the privilege of closely collaborating with our city and county partners, this ordinance isn't reflective of the system we've all worked so hard to establish. On the contrary, I find this ordinance infuriating and paternalistic. Government should not determine choice for survivors after they've already lost bodily autonomy in an assault. Survivors deserve the dignity and respect to make decisions about reporting without being forced into a system that may further harm them. To be clear, we're not opposed to reporting when a survivor chooses to do so. In fact, we support them throughout the whole process, as you've heard. Community-based organizations work in partnership because we see the value in true collaboration and the importance systems can have in delivering justice. Survivors should determine who, when, and how anyone knows their story, full stop. While I appreciate the consideration for public safety, this ordinance will not make our communities safer. taking away choice is not informed by survivors, and it is not supported by confidential advocates and organizations that work daily with survivors to uphold their choices and privacy. I strongly urge you to oppose this. Thank you for your time.
Kendra, followed by her Melinda.
Hi, my name is Kendra Asbury Steele, and I'm the in-person response manager at the YWCA. I was part of a task force whose responsibility it was to tell over 100 survivors that their kits would be tested in spite of their choice and without their consent as a result of the passing of SB 22. We attempted to soften the blow by sharing the purpose and intent of the bill and how it would ensure evidence that was collected could be tested before it degraded. However, what we could not explain was why the system that was built to protect them was making a decision to disregard their consent and, in essence, re-victimize them all over again. These survivors consented to provide evidence from their bodies that were violated during their assault under the pretense that it would be up to them whether or not that evidence was tested. This bill exploited and undermined that consent and centered the needs of the criminal justice system over them. When I spoke with these survivors, I heard their shock, disappointment, grief, and anger. I heard them say that they felt violated, disrespected, and ignored. While this measure may be well-intentioned, the impact will be to the detriment of survivors in our community, as it will take away their right to choose whether or not reporting is best for them. I urge you to take into consideration the rights and voice of those this ordinance says it protects, and to revise this ordinance in collaboration with both survivors and survivor supporting agencies. Thank you.
Her Melinda, followed by David.
Good afternoon. My name is Ermelinda Vasquez, Anti-Human Trafficking Supervisor at Community Solutions. And this afternoon, I would like to shift your attention away from taking away victims' rights and implore you to instead focus on the prevention of sexual abuse by recommending for implementation measures to increase public safety while in use of these transportation services. Uber, Lyft, and all transportation network companies should be advised to install cameras inside all their vehicles and to request biometric fingerprint scans and background checks for all their drivers before they are trusted to transport community members. Shine the spotlight on the drivers and not on survivors. Thank you.
David, followed by caller with last four digits, 1324.
Hello, I'm David Lee, and I'm the Deputy Director of Valor, a national and California-based sexual violence prevention organization that represents the 84 rape crisis centers across California. Mandatory reporting is harmful, and forcing survivors to engage with the criminal justice system only further restricts power and choice from survivors after experiencing a sexual assault and will have a chilling and silencing effect on reporting. Victim advocates and experts in sexual assault prevention and response have made it clear time and again that to our partners in government and law enforcement that our first responsibility must be to protect the dignity of survivors by restoring agency that is already being wrenched away from them. Institutions responsible for promoting best practice for trauma-informed understand that empowering survivors to make their own choices about what treatment to seek and what systems to involve are essential part of the healing journey. Taking away choices or compelling people to participate against their will poses a serious risk for re-traumatization. We are in the business of providing survivors with ample options, and this ordinance inherently limits them. We must take a trauma-informed approach that centers survivors' needs and let survivors dictate to whom, when, and how to seek justice. This ordinance sets a very dangerous precedent, and we need to be focusing on giving survivors autonomy in their decisions. As you have heard today from victim advocates throughout San Jose and Santa Clara County, Valor, along with 63 other California-based organizations and individuals, strongly oppose this ordinance.
Caller 1324, followed by Lydia. Caller 1324. Okay, moving on to Lydia.
Are we still having audio issues?
Let's.
Tell.
Is it possible
can hear
perhaps
you.
if the chair, if Vice Mayor Jones was reading the names, they might be able to hear?
No, I asked about that. They said they lost audio right before you spoke.
I can hear Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so I think
Now.
they can hear us from the dais. So
Okay.
if I can ask Public Works Facilities to figure out why the microphones aren't working for the clerk, but for the time being, I think we need to call public comment from the dais. I apologize.
Okay. So the last person was Lydia Cruz.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lydia Cruz, and I am with Community Solutions as our sexual assault program supervisor. And I wanted to share my thoughts and experiences working with sexual assault survivors who have had non-investigative forensic medical exams, also known as NIRs, that have been completed. I believe we should respect the decisions of survivors and what path they decide to take after an assault has occurred. A while back, I was one of several advocates who called survivors when the Santa Clara County made a policy change in which all non-investigative reports would now be tested. Having to then call survivors and letting them know of this change, there were several survivors who were upset with this. They mentioned that if they knew this would happen, that they would have never came forward and made the report. I strongly recommend we take into consideration the thoughts and decisions a survivor makes when making any report, as we want to make sure we respect what they want. Thank you.
Okay, Kosaria Henderson.
Thank you so much. My name is Colzaria Henderson, and I'm the Executive Director at Nextdoor Solutions to Domestic Violence. I just wanted to start to say that I have decades of experience as a sexual assault and domestic violence advocate, and that we hire often survivors. And so often you're hearing also from folks that are survivors that are thinking about this issue very, very personally, as well as the fact that we have fought so hard for survivor confidentiality. And this ordinance, I beg you to oppose this ordinance. The assumption that survivors do not know that they can call law enforcement if they choose is an assumption that implies survivors are feeble-minded and incapable. It is unnerving and actually shocking that this would even be considered. To contact the appropriate teams and rideshare organizations takes multiple steps. If a survivor wanted to call law enforcement, they would dial 911. They have gone out of their way to make a report in such a way that felt necessary to them and good to them at the time. I beg you to listen to survivors' voices, because when they're making that report, however it comes, that they have already made some decision. I beg you not to silence them any further. Thank
Vice
you.
Mayor will try calling the names again. Kim? Kim?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Kim Gutierrez, Director of Anti-Human Trafficking Services at Community Solutions. I want to thank the council for the time to voice concerns around the mayor's proposed ordinance regarding sexual assaults associated with Uber, Lyft, and taxis. Mandated reporting is harmful to survivors and strips them of their agency. A trauma-informed, survivor-centered approach ensures that the survivor is aware of their options, including access to a confidential victim advocate and reporting to law enforcement, and then honors their decision. Taking away choice from survivors impacts not only their healing process, but will also have a chilling and silencing effect on survivors. I urge the council to center survivor voice and choice and to not adopt this ordinance. Thank you.
Matt, followed by Abby.
Good afternoon, Matt King with Sacred Heart Community Service. I'm here today to stand in solidarity with our friends at YWCA and Nextdoor and the other folks you've been hearing from this afternoon. They've made it pretty clear to you why this is such a terrible idea. And I think it also speaks to a larger issue that you as council members, the people who will still be around in January, really need to wrestle with, that more policing and more jailing are not solutions to the really serious problems that we have, and just encouraging you today to listen to the people who devote their lives to helping people recover and to heal, and who are trying to build better and healthier communities, and just put an end to this conversation. Thank you.
Abby, followed by Tori.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking today to oppose the ordinance. This memorandum assumes survivors who report to Uber and Lyft are okay with reporting to law enforcement. In my experience as an advocate at Community Solutions in South Santa Clara County, having choices is incredibly important. Not all survivors want the same thing. By mandating survivors to report to law enforcement, this strips survivors of the choice to choose how they would like to move forward in their healing process. This could negatively impact survivors and take away their power to determine how reports are shared and their personal information. This could actually dissuade survivors from reporting at all. I ask that you slow down the decision and urge policymakers to collaborate with sexual assault survivors and advocates. Thank you.
Tori, followed by caller 1324.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tori Vandelin, and I'm here representing Reliance. Reliance is a national partnership dedicated to ending sexual violence by empowering industries, sectors, and systems to create culture change. Reliance, like many that you have heard from before me, stands firmly opposed to this ordinance. Private businesses have a responsibility to uphold the dignity, privacy, and autonomy of survivors and their choice through the entire reporting process. They are not, nor should they be, forcing survivors to engage with law enforcement following an assault. Nor should private businesses make their customer service agents take actions with survivors that go beyond the scope of connecting them to appropriate resources. These actions are clearly defined within a role as a sexual assault advocate, not a customer service agent. Additionally, mandated reporting to law enforcement causes significant harm to survivors and communities, and there are no other private businesses that are mandated reporters of non-dependent adult sexual assault. As you are hearing from the community-based victim advocates who have spoken today, it is in the best interest of private businesses and city governments to consult advocacy experts like those in the room. Reliance and others live the work of trauma-informed survivor support, advocacy, and sexual violence prevention every day. And we respectfully request that our voice and the voice of local community-based and California sexual assault advocacy agencies are earnestly heard and taken seriously in this matter. Thank you for your consideration, and we encourage you to oppose this proposal.
Caller 1324, followed by Cindy. Paul, you may want to check your phone settings. Going on to the next caller, Cindy.
Hello?
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I think there's a couple of questions here that need to be articulated clearly in this conversation. There's due process questions and legal questions. Thank you. There's a due process legal questions, and then there's the moral and ethical question. Now, no one's going to argue with the moral and ethical question. We know that. And sometimes these kinds of policy decisions, when you conflate the moral and ethical question with the legal question, it gets very, very confusing. And so I would like, considering that our mayor has a background in the sex crimes unit, I would like him to articulate that clearly so that we can get a more comprehensive view of what we're really talking about. There are serious due process issues here, Fifth Amendment issues and 14th Amendment issues. To think that you already automatically, anybody that is accused of crime is guilty of it is wrong. It's false, because we have a court process and it has to go through that process. We have a presumption of innocence. And so I would really like the due process questions articulated clearly so that there isn't this fear mongering. I get it now. I've been a victim of sexual assault. I've been a victim of a sexual assault and went to this police department, something that I will never, ever, ever do again. I was actually arrested as a result of me reporting to the San Jose Police Department for a sexual assault. I was sexually assaulted in the jail. So nobody can teach me anything about sexual assault and dealing with the police. Okay, so really, I would just like those, and so speaking from that position, I would like those due process issues addressed because you don't want to be conflating the two issues. Thank you.
Cindy, followed by Vanessa.
My name is Cindy Hunter, and I'm the Director of Programs and Policy at Nextdoor Solutions to Domestic Violence, and I am also a survivor. My lived experience is why I became a victim advocate and what has helped me in my healing process. I did not report it to the police. We urge the committee to vote against this anti-trauma informed and anti-victim centered ordinance. Justice, healing, and repair comes in many forms, and survivors should not be forced into the criminal legal system. If the ordinance is passed, it may in fact have the opposite impact. Victims may not report sexual violence to the ride-sharing companies if they know it will be reported to the police without their consent. A survivor-centered, trauma-informed response to sexual violence respects the autonomy and privacy choices of people who have been harmed. Thank you.
Vanessa, followed by Adriana.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Torres, and I'm the Associate Director of Social Justice at YWCA Golden Gate, Silicon Valley. I'm a mom, I'm a survivor, and I have lived in San Jose all my life, currently residing in District 6. Let me be clear that the proposed ordinance set forth by the mayor and the DA's office absolutely does not provide protection from sexual assault. This is not a preventative measure. This is not survivor-centered. This is not consensual. What this is not necessary. What this is another way for survivors with marginalized identities to have yet another decision made for them. Survivors should always be in control of their voice, their experience, their story. Rape Crisis Center advocates provide trauma-informed, survivor-centered care to survivors of sexual assault. Victim rights are given and choice and autonomy are prioritized, always. I'm disturbed with the lack of collaboration with local rape crisis centers and around this ordinance. I oppose this ordinance wholeheartedly and ask that you consider how this will affect not only our local community, but even our nation. San Jose is a large, trailblazing city recognized nationally for innovation. I worry about how this enactment of this ordinance will affect survivors of sexual assault everywhere. This ordinance is a step backwards and it's wrong. Thank you.
Adriana, followed by Jennifer.
Hello, my name's Adriana Marquez. I am with Community Solutions, and I worked as a sexual assault advocate for many years. And in my time there, I can tell you that going through the legal process is no easy journey for our survivors. Of course, if they choose to do so, we're there to support them. But, we have to realize that justice, healing, and repair comes in many different forms. Survivors really deserve an expansion of options, and they shouldn't be forced, right, or siloed into the criminal legal system. And I'm sure as many of you guys here in the DA's office, law enforcement, that process where there's multiple interviews with law enforcement, there's multiple interviews with the district attorney's office, telling your story over and over again is re-traumatizing. We support survivors after that with panic attacks, with not wanting to enter the courtroom ever again, not wanting to talk to law enforcement ever again, because they feel, again, incredibly traumatized and they don't want to speak on it again because they maybe weren't ready. But we need to keep the choice with the survivors. So I urge you to please not go forward with this, or at least continue talking about it and collaborating with survivors and with the agencies that support survivors. Thank you.
Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Dowrell. I'm the Executive Director of Safe Alternatives to Violent Environments. I have more than 20 years experience as being a victim advocate, working with both sexual assault and domestic violence survivors. I'm calling in today to stand in solidarity with my sister organizations in San Jose, CPEDV and Valor US, and against this ordinance. I want safe ride shares. I want accountability for people who harm, and also want to find a way forward that does not sacrifice the privacy and dignity of survivors in the process. Survivors and survivors alone should decide who they report their experiences to, and any process that deprives them of their agency and dignity must be opposed. It's condescending to say victims should be given the opportunity to speak with law enforcement. If a survivor wants to engage the criminal legal system, there are multiple routes to do that, where they can do that on their own terms. I encourage you all to coordinate with your local providers, trust their experience and their expertise, and most of all, to trust survivors. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. I see that we have our district attorney, Jeff Rosen, who's here with us. Would you like to speak on this item? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor, Mayor Liccardo, Councilmember Perales, and Councilmember Cohen. The first responsibility of local government, as laid out in the California Constitution, which we all swore an oath to, is public safety. That's the number one responsibility of local government, public safety. And in order to have public safety, we need to have a justice-centered approach. And a justice-centered approach means justice for the victims of sexual assault. It means justice for the defendant, accountability for the defendant, which leads to safety for the entire community. A number of speakers have spoken about protecting victims' choices. There is no meaningful choice without accurate information. The ride-sharing companies are not providing accurate information. I have zero confidence in this, that the information being provided is accurate, because in my discussions and the mayor's discussions with the ride-sharing companies, it was clear they have no idea how sexual assault is investigated and prosecuted in this county. They don't know anything about free, safe examinations, which are provided to all victims of sexual assault, whether they choose to cooperate in a criminal justice process or not, nor were any of the ride-sharing companies aware of the right to anonymity under California law, where individuals who participate in a criminal justice process, their names are not used in any of the court documents, and their anonymity is strictly protected. We very much maintain the agency of victims of sexual assault. We in the DA's office and in the San Jose Police Department do not force anyone to cooperate. We simply provide information, and if the victims choose to cooperate, then we move forward. If they don't, then we don't. In my experience, I've heard of a lot of the lived experience of people that have called in. Victims of sexual assault do not speak with one voice. And in my experience, in the mayor's experience, in Tasha Wiggins' experience from our office, as well as the experience of Terry Harmon and the 18 sexual assault prosecutors that we have, we prosecute and work with hundreds and hundreds of sexual assault victims every year, who often find the process, while difficult and arduous, empowering and helpful to their recovery in knowing that they have told their story, that the perpetrator has been held accountable, and that others will not be victimized in the future. As city council members, your responsibility as well as mine is public safety. There are hundreds of sexual assaults that are currently being committed in San Jose, in ride-sharing companies' vehicles, that are not being reported or investigated, which puts all of us at risk. We have many areas in our society where individuals are required to report assaults to law enforcement. These include school teachers, principals, as well as clergy are required to report sexual assaults to law enforcement. And If you're taking BART or VTA or a public bus and there's a sexual assault that's committed, the drivers, the vehicles that work for those companies report to law enforcement. So we have a situation where if you take a bus and there's a sexual assault, that will be reported to law enforcement. But if you take Uber or Lyft, it won't. That's very concerning to me, particularly when Uber and Lyft and other ride-sharing companies are effectively trying to become a public utility by providing as many rides as possible. And therefore, appropriate regulation is needed. We have sat down and spoken with survivor groups. We will continue to do that. And I hope that we'll be able to have their support for this ordinance going forward. And I would encourage you to send this to the entire City Council to consider. In the meantime, I know that the mayor and my staff and others will be sitting down and further speaking with different sexual assault organizations, including some of those that have called in, to find common ground. And I do think that there's common ground that is here. And I'm optimistic that we can do something to protect our safety. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to the mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Vice Mayor. And I want to thank the many individuals who offered their strong viewpoints and testimony over Zoom, most of whom appear to work in organizations that provide services, support, and advocacy for survivors. Obviously, these are people who are doing incredibly important work and are working for very critically worthy organizations, and we should listen to them carefully, both for their expertise as well as because of who they represent. I think there are a couple important points to be made in response. First, this is the beginning of a process, not the end. I'm not asking anyone to approve the proposed ordinance that I've put in this memorandum. I'm pretty confident that after there is additional conversation, and we have, in fact, on the 15th of December, a meeting with local organizations involved in providing services, including several organizations that you just heard from today. And I think that includes Valor Community Solutions, Next Door Solutions, the YWCA, and others. They'll be meeting with our police department and our DA's office in the hope that we can work to find common ground on an approach and move forward together. I'd expect this proposed policy may well evolve, and certainly has to evolve moving forward, and I will be not part of that process, obviously, after December 31st, but it's important for our police department to be part of that process because they are the organization tasked with protecting public safety in our city. So I ask simply this committee allow this process to move forward. Keep it on the police department's work plan. This is clearly something the chief supports, is something that our district attorney supports, and we ought to find a way forward working with our community. Second, I think it's critically important to be clear about who is represented and who is not being represented right now. As I said before, these and other organizations do incredibly vital work, and I know because I've worked with several of them back in my days as a prosecutor in sexual assaults. And it's important we support their work, but it's different work than what is required of public safety agencies like the police department and the DA's office. And they have very different obligations than the city does. They serve individual survivors, and many of those survivors do not want to disclose their victimization to the police. And we all agree that if any survivor is called by a police department and declines to provide information, they absolutely within their right to do so. And they should certainly be free to choose to report or not. But many survivors do want to report to the police, and we have good reason to believe that they may feel more emboldened to do so if they're actually fully informed of the criminal justice process when they make their choice. And we have reviewed information provided by Lyft and Uber, and it's very clear they are not providing survivors all the information they need. And we have reason to believe survivors, and you're going to hear from one of them in just a moment on a video, survivors are implicitly misled that when they tell Lyft or Uber, they think something's going to happen to protect them, that maybe a restraining order will result, maybe an arrest, when in fact none of that's happening. These companies are not telling survivors the truth. They're not telling survivors that no report will be made to the police unless they do so. Now, it's also important to recognize these organizations represent a very important set of stakeholders, that is, current survivors of sexual assault. But they don't represent the entire public. Public agencies like the city, San Jose PD, and DA have that obligation and are required to serve everyone in a community, both those who have suffered from sexual assault as well as those who could suffer from a sexual assault. A sexual assault that could have been prevented if someone had reported the prior assault from the same assailant to the police. We know that these crimes have a very basic characteristic. Assailants commit over and over again. And if an assailant is never arrested, you can be certain there will be another attempt. And there is no organization that you've heard from that represents future victims, because that organization doesn't exist, because we don't know who those future victims are. I'd like to, if I can, go to a video now so you can hear from a recent victim. Her name is Celia. She was assaulted here in San Jose just a few weeks ago. And this is a news account. She was a driver for Lyft. There was a suggestion that we're not focused on protecting drivers. Well, she's a driver, and she strongly supports what we're doing because she's furious that Lyft isn't doing enough to protect her. And she wants somebody to step up. So do we have that video? Let's see if we can play that roll.
A terrifying attack on a Lyft driver, and it is caught on a dash cam. The driver tells us a passenger sexually assaulted her as they were driving on a San Jose freeway. Here's NBC Bay Area's Stephanie Magallon.
It starts like every other eerie scene. A late drive Monday night on a silent freeway. And then heart-wrenching screams. The cries and panic last for about 30 seconds. You're not gonna die. At one point, you can hear someone say, "You're not going to die right now." The driver pulls over and dash cam footage catches her running into traffic on San Jose's 280 southbound near 10th Street, pleading for help.
Please help me, gritando, chorando.
With help from an interpreter, Zelia Silva tells me she was working for Lyft that night, and the man that attacked her was a customer. She says she was driving 70 miles an hour when she suddenly felt his arms wrap around her.
Ele me imobilizou, prendendo os meus braços.
He immobilized me, says Silva, who remembers him pinning her so hard against her seat, she was holding the steering wheel with her fingertips, all while trying to park the car and kick the door open to escape.
Tô com hematoma.
Leaving bruises and marks around her chest and wrist.
Please drive, por favor, drive.
Silva tells us the driver who picked her up saved her life. She believes the passenger wanted to kill her. After safely getting into another car on the freeway, you can hear the suspect yell, and then the car is on the move. He exits on 10th Street, ignores several red lights, and swerves through the city streets until crashing into a light pole. In a statement, Lyft says it's offering support to the driver and permanently removing the rider account from the Lyft community. But Silva says more needs to be done.
A Lyft não permite que nós tenhamos câmera para dentro do carro.
She wants cameras inside of her car. She demands female drivers have the choice of only picking up female passengers and asks Lyft to prohibit riders from requesting pickups for others, which is what she says happened here. A woman requested a ride for the man she says sexually violated her, a suspect who police say is still on the run. In San Jose, Stephanie Magallon, NBC Bay Area News.
Now, I didn't
Today we're
ask.
doing something different for once. We're actually going.
Could we please? Thank you. I didn't ask Celia to come in because her case is being prosecuted. The Good Samaritan driver who picked her up actually reported the crime to the police, and it's being prosecuted. And for reasons of integrity of that investigation and prosecution, I didn't want to have her come in. But I did ask Paul Pereira, as a Portuguese speaker on our team, I think you all know, to communicate with her. And as she indicated her strong support for what we're trying to do, she said that when she notified Lyft of her victimization, they asked her to provide video and pictures, and she did so. You see some of that video in this presentation. She didn't hear from Lyft again except for an email, actually an email and a video, and I'll tell you about what it was in a moment. But otherwise, there wasn't any follow-up. There was no information told about the result of any investigation that Lyft might have performed or otherwise. She was very frustrated. She expected them to do something, and she felt they just didn't. Lyft's response was to send her an email listing the resources for survivors of sexual assault. And then they sent her a training video. She was particularly offended by the training video she received from Lyft. It's a video intended to discourage drivers from committing sexual harassment or aggression. Obviously, she was a driver who was assaulted, and she thought this very cookie-cutter solution was very offensive. So Lyft's response that you saw on the video was that we removed the Lyft user from our platform. But you just heard her say that it wasn't the Lyft user on the platform that committed the assault. The platform user was a woman, the assailant was a male. So that's not a terribly useful result, and obviously doesn't protect anyone's safety. She asked Lyft for assistance with the repair of her car, which you saw was damaged. The company refused, saying she was an independent contractor. She hasn't heard from Lyft in more than 45 days. She feels that Lyft has done absolutely nothing to protect her and hasn't offered her any information about what next steps there are. She told us she strongly supports our proposal because she doesn't trust corporations like Lyft to do anything to protect survivors like her. Now, I appreciate what all these organizations, what many representatives of these organizations have said to us so far, and they absolutely need to be heeded. But they don't necessarily represent the views of Acelia, nor do they represent necessarily the views of the 550 survivors who just filed a lawsuit 4 months ago in San Francisco against Uber, who demanded more of Uber and reporting, and nor the 13 women who filed lawsuits against Lyft 3 months ago in San Francisco, because they all have lawyers to speak for them. Not everybody has that benefit. It is important to recognize also who's being represented as we think about this. When I said that we didn't hear from any organizations representing future victims, there's no such organization. There are many survivor organizations of current survivors. We're fortunate to have those organizations. Several are very heavily financially supported by Lyft and Uber. Organizations such as RAIN, national organizations that in turn provide funding to local support groups. We did a quick 8-minute internet search and found 3 public announcements in recent years from Lyft and Uber. And those 3 announcements, the companies announced $9 million in support of these organizations. And obviously, there's likely much more if we had spent much more time looking. And I don't say this to impugn the integrity of these worthy organizations, because I'm confident that all or many of these organizations would say exactly the same thing, whether they receive funding from Uber or not. And I know, as a former criminal prosecutor, sexual assault cases, I know it's not uncommon for survivor advocacy groups to have positions that are at odds with the law enforcement and the DA's office. None of us who have been in this business are surprised at all. It may be surprising to others, but we have seen this many times. But the point is that Lyft and Uber don't give $9 million to any groups advocating for future victims of sexual assault, because that organization doesn't exist. And who speaks for them? Well, who speaks for them are Deputy Chief L. Washburn and DA Jeff Rosen and Assistant DA Terry Harmon. All the future victims that need to be protected, the residents in our city. And we can be certain that there are many of them out there, because we know, just as we look at the public reporting alone, in 1 year, more than 3,600 sexual assaults and harassment cases reported by Lyft and Uber alone. Those all went to the PUC, by the way, not to law enforcement. It's important to see where they do report. These organizations actually do report the assaults to each other. They share a network. So Uber and Lyft share information about when there has been an assault allegation involving one of its drivers, one of its Lyft or Uber users, and that information is tracked by the companies. They just don't report that information to law enforcement. They don't report that information to the one organization that can actually do something to protect the community or protect the victim. So my concern is this: whether you enact what I've proposed or not, and I understand there's plenty of opposition to that, and we're going to work through it, we want the police department to be able to work through this to get to some solution that's better than the status quo, because the status quo is not tolerable in terms of safety. It may be that instead of requiring reporting, you simply require that companies disclose that they're not going to report to the police. Maybe you require that companies inform victims that if they want restraining orders or if they want an arrest, then that they must report to the police, because right now the companies aren't telling even that much. So it doesn't have to be in this form, but it's got to be something more than what companies are doing today, or else we have conceded public safety to corporate America that has every intention of protecting themselves from liability. They've got hundreds of lawsuits already against them, and they don't want the reputational damage. They don't want the liability. They have a lot of financial incentives to do exactly what they're doing now, which is not much. I'm asking that we ask them to do more, and we demand them to do more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, looking for Councilmember Perales. Go first.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Mayor, city staff, and our public speakers that came out today from the DA's office, as well as all the advocates and participants on Zoom. I actually think it's a fairly easy decision that we have in front of us today, namely because of the early consideration response, and what the mayor is asking for, as he has described, is the beginning of a process. We're not deciding on a policy today. This is not the end. This is the beginning. And in fact, in the mayor's memo, what I read and in the early consideration form, explicitly details that communication, outreach, coordination is going to be done to stakeholders, which includes the organizations, at least the local ones, I would imagine, that we heard from today. I know we heard a deep interest from them as they spoke up to be included, some that felt excluded to date. Again, I'm not aware of how much outreach the mayor has had, but this is the beginning of a process. And so I think, in essence, I would say that the vote today is likely not the difficult one, but potentially in the future, if we come forward with a proposed policy, then it may be a little bit more challenging, because I would agree there is a balance here. And as the mayor has pointed out, first off, no one person or organization can speak on behalf of all survivors. And that's not something that we could do. It's not something anybody can purport to do. We have heard from victim advocates and that angle of victim advocacy, where there is an interest in supporting the rights and the health of survivors, which is important. But it is also important that there is perpetrator accountability and public safety to prevent future victimization. And we have an interest, I believe we all do, in preventing assailants from violating again. And unfortunately, and as the mayor pointed out, this is a reoccurring conflict that we see between law enforcement and advocacy groups. I would hope that we find some better pathways. This may be one process that helps, but where we find some better pathways to be able to really address this challenge, because I believe we have the same goals in mind, whether you're coming from the advocate perspective or the law enforcement perspective. And indeed, though we bump up against what seems to be some heated opposition, I do hope that, based on the spirit of the memo and the direction, that it will allow some space for all sides to be able to have a conversation and figure out how we can move forward better together and create better public safety, respect the rights of survivors, but also ensure that these incidents don't go unchecked, and that we can prevent them from reoccurring in our community. Just looking at my notes, apologize. I think that'll conclude it for now, at least on my thoughts. I did have a question, though, for the city attorney's office. It is stated in the early consideration form that you will explore some of the legal challenges. I heard that in some of the outreach that we received over the last couple of days. I'm assuming you don't have an answer on that now, but that's part of the work that you will do to determine where legally we have some opportunities. The mayor put that in his memo as well. Correct?
That's correct. We don't have answers right now, but we will do that in working with the city manager's office and the police department.
Okay, so that'll be part of the analysis, and if there are any true legal challenges, those will have to be addressed before we come forward with any final policies.
That would be correct. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will move the mayor's recommendation with the early consideration form.
All right, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Hearing none. Councilmember Arenas.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm really grateful for all of the voices that came out today. I just like everyone else, want to make sure that perpetrators are held accountable. And most importantly, I want to make sure that survivors are heard, that they keep their agency, and that we respect their decisions. One of the ways that we can begin to do that, and I really appreciate what the mayor said earlier, and that you have this meeting with a number of survivor agencies or agencies that represent survivor interests. And I wonder why we didn't just begin there, because I think it would have allowed for this memo to be much richer and not to be the beginning of the conversation that's very prescriptive, and instead really have an organic process. And I don't agree with, obviously I didn't second this because I just don't agree that we are beginning something. We were actually at the end, we're basically saying this is how we've laid out the path, and we've said this is how this path is going to go. So participate in the process. And I think that that's not the approach that our agencies who represent survivors and survivors themselves, who most of those folks are advocates themselves, have said. So you heard from them, and I really hope that the next iteration of this takes their voices into account and really weaves into the memo and the recommendations in a way that it honors and respects our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, I just have some questions. I'm obviously concerned about some of the public safety implications of the current procedures, but also a little concerned about the over-prescriptive nature of this memo. And so I'm grappling with a couple things. What I heard first was we want to make sure this is on the PD work plan. So what I'm wondering is there something necessary about passing this memo in order to have to continue the conversation and the work going forward with the police department, district attorney's office, and others? Is there some reason why this has to go forward in order to authorize that conversation to continue? I don't know who could.
Just to clarify, you're asking if this is something that could be woven into the current sexual assault work plan, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, do we need to do something today in order for the future meetings and conversations that will continue on this topic to continue? Because I know I heard about a specific meeting and others, so are we waiting for?
I don't think it would preclude the PD from having future discussions around how we might find common ground. I don't think that a no vote today would preclude any further discussion. As a law enforcement entity, certainly we believe in protecting public safety, and this has come to light as a complex issue. And so we're going to continue to have dialogue around it. And I hope that answers your question.
Maybe if I could offer, I think if there is a no vote, I think there will be extremely unlikely that staff will decide it's appropriate to bring anything back to council. I'll let Lee comment on that. I mean, there's a gatekeeping function the Rules Committee provides.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Certainly would agree with the mayor. I do think as we prioritize our work, knowing that council's interested in a certain direction absolutely helps us make consideration around how we prioritize work. You know, with this, obviously, a lot of this has come to light over the, in the near term, as Deputy Chief Washburn said, and same with the sexual assault work plan. We have the ability and flexibility to pick things up and work on them. We often do. This is a green light for two reasons. They were starting to jump into some of this work and look at it. But also there's capacity in this unit and division to do the work right now as well. When council does green light something, I would say it does help us prioritize work that comes up after this. So if something else were to happen in the deputy chief's unit and she needed to prioritize, certainly a green light helps keep this at the top of the pile when we have deadlines to come back for the mayor and council.
Could I offer a suggestion, Councilmember, if it might help? What you have before you is perhaps option A. We'll call it perhaps the option that was crafted in consultation with law enforcement entities. I expect there'll be other options. I would really only ask that the Rules Committee allow option A to be considered with other options that undoubtedly will be put on the table through these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been more comfortable with something that said continue to discuss with advocates and amongst the agencies how to address and how to, what recommendations we might have locally on this topic, and report that to PISFIS for potential future, to the Public Safety Committee for potential future referral to council, as opposed to what seemed overly prescriptive here with a specific set of suggested solutions at a stage in which I don't feel enough people have, while conversations have obviously happened, enough people have been brought to the table to agree that this is the right approach. So I'm concerned with sending a signal that, hey, this is the solution we like as a council. And that's why I prefer something more general that just says, hey, let's continue having these conversations and refer it for future discussion amongst council bodies.
It's a fair point. I would just suggest, if you look at the list, most of this is very non-controversial. There's one very controversial point, and I think you've heard it, which is that companies be required to report. You could certainly, I just want to suggest, to the extent that you say it may be overly prescriptive, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of common ground on a lot of the other things that, for example, survivors be fully informed. I don't think anyone would disagree with that notion.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the memo, I say number one makes perfect sense to me, right, as a requirement. The parts about the question of agency of survivors is the big issue, and I'm uncomfortable saying that we sort of support that approach at this stage. The other question sort of that I have obviously is about our authority. I'm not sure what authority we have locally, and I obviously will have to look into that, and that's part of the process, but I'm not convinced we have that authority. I've also learned recently that the CPUC has said that they are planning to pursue some statewide discussion and action where I've always felt this is a more appropriate place for this conversation to be happening. But because of the cross-jurisdictional nature of these kinds of businesses and other things, I'm not convinced that this is the right venue for this kind of decision to be made.
Yeah, if I could just offer about this PUC, what they've considered is the reporting requirements for these agencies to the state about the number of sexual assault events that happened or allegations and what they are. There's actually no information that would in any way be actionable for any law enforcement agency in any part of the state to actually protect a single human being based on that information. So, pretty sure you're saying, but PUC has not been addressing this issue, much to my consternation. I wish they would. But if they're not going to, and I think, frankly, the political forces are strongly aligned. Look, Lyft and Uber are very powerful companies. They have effective lobbying groups, and I don't think the PUC is going to put it on their agenda.
Okay. Well, and I think I would support a motion that said something much more, like I said, something much more general that says let's continue to engage with stakeholders and agencies on how to improve the public safety around rideshare sexual assaults, and leave it at that. And and then the process will play out as far as how it gets reported back to committees and potentially to council if we get to a point at which there seems to be some agreement that there's action that people can be brought along to support. So, I mean, if it really
If that's
can
a friendly amendment, I'll accept it and then I'll speak to it.
okay, yeah, that'll be a friendly amendment.
And you'll accept it,
And
I
then I'll
assume?
second
You'll
it.
second it?
Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you. I'm comfortable with that, the more broad approach. I will say I would be comfortable with what the mayor laid out, hence why I moved that. And I actually think in this case, it would be better to have, I wouldn't say it's too prescriptive, because again, it's not the end result. It's providing, guide rails on here's where we should be looking at. And actually, I would prefer to kind of know where, where we may be headed. And so I think that's what the mayor presents in his language is, hey, this is a direction we could go. After much discussion and collaboration, it may end up completely different. That could be the case. But at least it would provide us some direction. Nonetheless, if there's no support for that, then that would move forward. So the more broad approach, if you're comfortable with, I think it's fine too. At least it keeps the conversation going. I think it's an important conversation to have. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the discussion this afternoon. I know it's been a kind of a long one, but I do appreciate the more broad approach. I can see both sides of this issue. I understand the need and the desire, but also the need for us to protect the public as much as we can. At the same time, I'm really, really uncomfortable with the 1B that was on the memo about giving contact information of the survivor to law enforcement. If that wasn't with the express permission of that survivor. So that's the part that was really giving me pause. I did want to ask if the motion includes the direction to the city attorney to ensure that we have jurisdiction and to really lay out kind of what the parameters of our jurisdiction are.
Yeah, I believe that should be included if I didn't explicitly say so before. Well,
And Councilmember Davis, that was our understanding that the direction to us would continue to my office.
Thank you. I know that the Lyft drivers aren't really just staying in town these days. They go all up and down the peninsula. I happen to know a Lyft driver or an Uber driver who lives in Gilroy and actually does most of his work at the San Francisco airport and around the San Francisco airport. So this is not just, the ride share from when it first started, where it was just people kind of hanging out in town doing their thing. This is like a taxi now. So I want to make sure that we know what our jurisdiction is with these companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arenas.
Thank you. I'm wondering, is item 1B included or not included in this motion?
It is not included.
Okay, great. I'm not very supportive of the motion. I'm not supportive of the motion on the floor because I think what is happening is backwards. We're deciding where it is that we want to go, and we're asking advocates to give us their opinion after the fact and after we've already set things in motion. I do agree with 1A, which is the resource card, and 1A3, which is the sexual assault bill of rights. Of course, the 1B was not something that I was willing to support. I also think that we should somehow formalize the conversations that Mayor, that you intend to have with some of the private agencies, CBOs, as well as the private public rideshare companies. And I think we need to ensure that we explore and discuss with the private public partnerships their sexual assault policies, and includes things that could help a survivor at the moment that these things happen. And that would be things like supporting free or reduced cost transportation for survivors to a community advocacy agency, or to or as part of a safety exit plan from somebody who is in a intimate partner violence situation, or to participate in or adopt similar policies like the Rise Now Survivor Safe Haven program, where you post an information flyer within the vision of the passengers. You've all seen it in more of the taxis, but I don't think I've ever seen an Uber or Lyft where somebody who is a survivor can actually see where they could connect for additional services. This process to me seems not in spirit of collaboration and partnership, unfortunately, because those voices that you've heard over and over again, whether they are funded or not funded, we fund so many agencies, and we provide, we allow for developers not to pay some fees, but that does not mean that they are indebted to us. Or when we vote in their favor, it does not mean that they are, and the opposite. So I don't agree with the approach that these agencies are voicing these concerns because of fear of loss of grants or future grants. I think that they genuinely came out because they believe in what they say. They've learned through experience what it is that works for survivors. And I would also ask that when we have these kinds of memos, that we integrate the feedback from our police department and our survivors network in a way that really hears them, in a way that brings us to the same conclusion, instead of feeling that now we have to follow these guardrails, as you call them, council member, because you said so. You've heard survivors say quite the opposite. And so I'm not going to ask for a friendly amendment. I'm just not going to support this motion. I think it's patriarchal, and I think it's overly prescriptive. And I'd just like to point out that all of the folks who are on the dais at the moment are men who have consistently supported women in the past. And I hope that you can continue to support survivors and women in not supporting this particular motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
And just to clarify, my motion was pretty much scrubbing all the language from the memo, except for the part that asks for the attorney to check on our authority, and the part and basically the general idea that conversations will move forward on what kinds of protections, what kinds of collective solutions might be able to be developed in conversation with advocates, but all of the specifics in the memo not specifically adopted, so that we're not putting any preconceived ideas as to any outcome. So that was my motion, or at least the motion I think that we collectively made.
That's correct.
Yes. And thank you, Councilmember Cohen, for clarifying that. All right, I don't see any other hands raised or request to speak, and so we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Arenas,
No.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you again for everyone who came out and spoke on this item. We are now on to item C2, waiver of revolving door restrictions. And let's go to the public first for public comments.
We have an in-person speaker, the requester, Christina Ramos. Please go ahead and make your way to the podium.
Hi, good afternoon, Vice Mayor and the rest of the Rules Committee. It's weird to be on this side of the microphone, I must say. You know, I've had the privilege and honor of serving as Chief of Staff to Councilmember Perales for the last 7 years, and growing up and being raised in the city of San Jose. It's also been my great, I can't, just undescribable dream to continue to serve my community. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to be a local government affairs representative for Santa Clara County with PG&E, and part of my responsibilities is to be the liaison to all of our elected officials throughout the county, with San Jose being our largest region and service territory of PG&E. And I would continue to be able to serve our community in that capacity, being all the things that we work on together. And currently, right now, that position has been vacant for the past 1.5 years, and you guys deserve to have a liaison to be represented and to serve this community once again. So if I'm here, if you have any questions, and I just hope that we can move this forward to council. Thank you.
And thank you. All right, we'll go to public comments.
No hands raised. Back to the committee.
Okay. Councilmember Perales.
I'm happy to see if my colleagues want to say something first before I say something.
And, excuse me, Vice Mayor, do you want me to just run through what the committee is doing, or are we all comfortable with that?
No, go, please.
Okay. When a revolving door waiver is requested, it comes here to Rules for review. Rules makes a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council will ultimately decide whether or not the waiver is granted. But here at Rules, if you are recommending a waiver, then you should also make some findings. It can be as simple as referring to the request, or you can make some other additional findings or separate findings if you want. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm happy to defer if any of my colleagues wanted to speak first. If not, then I'll speak. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody else.
Yes.
Councilmember Arenas had her hand up online. I don't know if that's from before.
Councilmember Reyes, was that? I was assuming that was from before. Did you want?
Yes, that's from before. Thank you so much for checking in.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you. Well, certainly, appreciate Christina and the work that she did for me in the District 3 office, and was a tremendous public servant to our community here as Chief of Staff for me for the last 7 years. And was bummed to lose her, although I'm moving on, and so losing the entire team. Kind of the reality of terming out. And so I've been pleased to see my staff land in various different locations, a couple of them staying here with the city, which has been great, I think, for our organization here. And then an opportunity that Christina's had now to serve with PG&E, and more importantly, be a liaison, as she stated, in her role and responsibility with PG&E for our city. As she denoted in her letter, I'll utilize that to our city attorney's advice in the findings. I think really it's at our disadvantage and our loss if we do not approve this waiver, because then we are sort of missing out on the direct representation and liaison that we would have in Christina through PG&E. And as she stated, her role is covering the county of Santa Clara. We are the largest city in this area, and it would be to our disadvantage, I believe, We have not had an immediate local liaison for over a year, I think close to 2 years. And I truly think this would be a benefit for our organization to be able to do so. We also have some precedents a couple years ago approving a waiver for a member of the mayor's staff that had moved on to a local advocacy organization for nonprofits, one that we work hand in hand with, and sometimes in concert, sometimes in opposition. But I think that there was also an important need for that waiver as well. And so with that, I will make a motion to grant the waiver of the revolving door restrictions and forward that to the full council next week.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let me see. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, so can we have a roll call vote, please?
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye. All right. On to item C3, homeless funding transparency. Let's go to the public first.
Blair, go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I spoke on this item previously at consent calendar time. Just a thanks to all the years that Vice Mayor Jones has put up with me trying to learn the proper time to speak for such an item. I hope my words at consent can be noted and how this item is now talked about. Thank you.
Paul Soto.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Having homeless transparency is a misnomer for this city. You guys can keep on like with your faux rhetoric while the body count and the homeless population continues to increase because of your incompetency and because of your complete conscience. You're consciously aware of what you're doing. And then you smile, you smirk, you laugh, you mock while people continue to die on our streets, continue to live. Martin Luther King said this: compassion is more than flipping a coin to a beggar. It is dismantling the edifice that produces them. This is MLK. Now, I doubt that any of you have stood on that principle when you're creating policy that deals with the homeless population, because we're not dealing with homeless people. We're dealing with generational poverty that is being accelerated now due to the tech industry coming to the city. Now, until we start using that as the premise for the conversation, the start point, you're going to continue to come in this room, continue to mock those that are suffering from your failures, and it's going to continue. So homeless transparency, that's why Dave Cortese is auditing this city. But you guys are going to be gone, so you don't care. You literally don't care. And I get it. Sociopaths usually don't. Sociopaths don't care. They have absolutely no consciousness at all, no moral or ethical conflict, man. So do whatever you do. It's going to be nice. It's going to be really good to listen to you talk. Go ahead. I'm done.
Back to the committee.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Yeah, I look forward to being able, for the public to be able to track how our funding that comes in for homelessness is utilized in the city, and so I move approval of item C3.
Second.
I can jump in just really quickly for clarification. We do have an early consideration form, which is green. We actually have staff upstairs working on this item right now, and would like to ask for a little flexibility on the end of January date. This may slip into February just for our first iteration, so we'll just ask for some flexibility.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say anything after January 1st, you can have all the flexibility you want, but I'll let Councilmember Cohen.
There's always some flexibility.
Yes.
Anyway, so can we have a roll call vote, please?
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Morales?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next is resolutions denouncing hate crimes and Islamophobia, and we'll go to the public first.
Paul Soto?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I know that there's a councilwoman on this council right now that can back this up. When the police department gave statistics about hate crimes, okay? This is hate crimes. And I want somebody to call me a liar and tell me I'm wrong. Hate crimes, the most victims of hate crimes in San Jose, guess who it is? Blacks. You know who's second? Latinos, Chicanos, Mexicanos, Salvadorians, Guatemalans, Peruvians, Nicaraguenses, Panamanians, Cubanos, Puerto Ricanos. Those are second. Asians are third. So what I want to know is, statistically speaking, are you talking that somehow or another the Islamic and the Muslim community has been suffering an exponential amount of hate crimes that your data and statistics can back up right now in this meeting, that would warrant an exclusive designation in your memo about Islamophobia? Because if we're going to talk about hate crimes, then let's talk about it, okay? And we'll put blacks first, because they are the most victims, because we all respect equity, right? So that's what equity would determine. But you use Islamophobia, so what you're doing is you're hijacking and you're using religion. You're using what has happened to those people, to the people that have suffered because of religious persecution, to make yourselves look like you're moral and ethical. That's sickening. This is sickening. So again, call me a liar, because my statistical facts back me up. What about yours? Thank you.
Blair?
All right, thank you. Thanks for the words of Paul Soto. I think over the past few years, both him and I have been attending these sort of anti-hate meetings with, public meetings with different statistics being offered in the groups that he mentioned. Another group that has been mentioned a lot the past few years that's getting a lot more hate than usual is Jewish groups, people of Jewish faith and religion. This is an interesting item by Councilperson Jones, Vice Mayor Jones, because I know the African American community was also high on the list in San Jose of most hate crimes reported. So working with people from the Islam faith can be an interesting concept in maybe bridging connections with, different persons in San Jose, different groups, which I think the Islamic community can actually be pretty good at. And their religion has an interesting way to make those sorts of connections. It has an inclusivity about it that's interesting. And so good luck with this item and what it can be accomplishing for all of us in San Jose in the next few years. I respect what it is capable of, and thanks for this item a lot, and good luck in your work on this item. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to highlight that these resolutions actually were adopted by the Cities Association with the request that we all bring those resolutions back to our respective councils. Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing this resolution to us. There's been a rise in various kinds of hate crimes, even more so anti-Semitism recently, and so these are important interfaith cross-faith types of efforts where we stand up for one another when there's hate crimes. Many of us are talking about how we need to speak out for everybody when these things happen, and I appreciate this resolution pointing out various types of hate crimes targeting different groups that have been happening recently. So I'll move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Morales?
Yeah, thank you. And just because it came up in the public comment, I want to make it clear, there are two resolutions here. If you read the first one specifically condemning hate crimes, which is inclusive of all, there's no specificity there on singling out any group, and that is inclusive of obviously hate crimes that we've seen on the rise for many different individuals in our community. And so I appreciate that in the work and the work that the Cities Association has done there, and Vice Mayor, for you bringing this forward to our council. Thanks.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. I don't see other hands raised, so can we have a roll call vote, please?
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item we will take individually, and then the following items we'll group together. So C5, staffing, recruitment, retention, and vacancies. We will go to the public first.
Louis,
Hello, good afternoon, council members of our working partnership.
Louis, we can't hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Louis, could you speak louder, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Oh, sorry if I'm shouting a bit. With our working partnership, I want to thank Councilmember Arenas for bringing this item back and urge the committee to move it forward, hold the special meetings, and to consult with both community groups and city unions to develop proposals for the special meeting. This is an issue that has been a problem for many, many years at the city. As you're all aware, we've had over a decade of disinvestment in our city workforce that's left a lot of our essential neighborhood services severely understaffed. The city has more than 900 persistent vacancies. These are positions that are funded, but we can't retain people in them. And what that means is that many of our San Jose neighborhoods are not getting the core services they need. And we know that when that happens, the neighborhoods that suffer the most are the ones that have traditionally been disenfranchised, our communities of color, our immigrant communities, our working class neighborhoods. So I would ask you to, I know that this is something that you all are aware of, I'm not telling you anything new, but we really need to lift it up and prioritize developing a long-term strategy, bring together workers, managers, HR, and the community to figure out what do we need to reverse this trend. Make our city back into a world-class employer, provide good jobs that can be filled by people serving the communities they come from, all of our diverse residents, and make sure that all our neighborhoods get the services that they need to thrive. So please move forward with this strategy, and as working partnerships, we would be happy to support in any way in engaging the community and trying to come up with some long-term solutions. Thank you.
Paul Soto.
Yes, Paul Soper from the Horseshoe. On this committee right here is somebody that also works for the police department, and they give an excellent definition of what racial equity means within the context of city services and service allocations. So I think that you would be able to solve some of your problems by really using that councilman's definition of racial equity in the context of this conversation. And here's why. This is what it does. Is it removes services from other areas of the city, Willow Glen, Cambrian, Almaden, Rose Garden, and it concentrates and allocates services and resources to those areas which we all know, and if you don't know, then you don't belong in this council. But we know these areas, these barrios, the Horseshoe, Palmas, Meadowfair, Salsipuedes, Lomas, all of these barrios have been economically and resource deprived, and that was by intention. So in your policy decisions, all you have to do is remove services from all those barrios that I mentioned prior that have been giving the lion's share of those resources because of racist policies, and start giving them to the neighborhoods and the barrios that really actually deserve them and actually create the tax base by which you extract that money to service those areas. Thank you.
John?
Hi, everyone, and and thank you. John Tucker with AFSCME Municipal Employees Federation. I'll be brief, but I'm here to speak in support of the memo. You all know that we've spent years talking about recruitment and retention and staffing levels. Excuse me, and every year it continues to get worse. We just saw the most recent numbers, which are over 900 some vacancies now. I understand that the pushback from human HR in the city is that not having the staff resources to take on this extra work right now, which is ironic at worst. But I think we need to put the cart before the horse. It's time for the city to focus some serious people and resources at the recruitment and retention issues, and really look to do something. I mean, you know it's bad when the union reps are coming to you telling you that HR needs more staff. That's how dire this is. And we support the memo. We support a process that allows us all to look at this, come up with ideas and create solutions. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here to speak on item 5 of these series of items about recruitment issues. For whatever sense of misery and dourness that we're all feeling in this era of COVID and trying to get out of it, really good luck in how to try to revitalize ourselves and how to offer hope, support, and just kind of like our positive selves, how to get out of this era and into, I think, what, the second half of this decade may be really interesting. And how can you share that hope and excitement with, in the recruiting process, really important. The work that I do with openness and accountability and responsibility. I mean, you talk about those things with people when trying to hire and for that to be a philosophy to share what's important for the future of San Jose. That civic innovation is interestingly trying to learn and starting to learn to pass that along to other parts of city staff. That's the sort of ideas of hope and just interest and just good practices that I think people would want to respect and want to be a part of for our future. And I know, like, for instance, the data collection companies are, big tech companies, they're going through the same kind of misery right now where they're just lackluster and apathetic. And again, I think it's the practices of openness and accountability and to focus on a more community-based solutions that can offer real vibrancy and life to our good future for all of us. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Before I go to my colleagues, there's an early consideration form. Lee, would like to speak to it, please?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Staff does have an early consideration form. It is yellow. In that early consideration form, we do acknowledge that staff is currently going to be scheduled to come forward to the Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee with the staffing, recruitment, and retention update to that committee in February of 2023. So the council will hear that. If the committee wishes for the full council to hear that, they can cross-reference it. Just because we did have folks call in, I do want to encourage our union leaders who called in. We were approached around a similar proposal in the fall, and we asked those union representatives to sit with Jennifer Shembri and I and discuss them and work them through, as we are currently piloting a lot, and they were apprehensive to participate. So I would ask them, as we are coming forward to PISFIS in little less than 3 months, if we could re-engage in that conversation, because we'd certainly like to hear from them. And then lastly, as the council member acknowledges in her proposal some of the acute vacancies, we are piloting some additional resources and centralization for the housing department, parks and recreation, neighborhood services, as well as planning, building, and code enforcement, to be a little bit more agile, and that will be part of the report out in February.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Arenas first.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And thank you for the response on this request. Obviously, I'm trying to wrap some things up before the end of the year, and one of these items has been this question about staffing, recruitment, and retention and vacancies. And I know it's not new to any one of us. We've are all trying to figure out and do the best that we can with the folks that we have on board. But this creates a terrible cycle because we have staff that we depend on that we are eventually going to burn out because there's high vacancy rates, and we all know this, right? So those staff members get burned out, or they see another job that pays them a little bit higher, and it's less work for them. And so this also leads to high turnover rates. And we know that this is one of the worst vacancy rates that we've had. And so this is really an attempt to continue to move this item forward, regardless of whether I'm on council or not. I know we've been nudging this along. I know that HR team is very dedicated, and I know that they've had a lot of efforts in addressing this issue, not just because of this particular request, but as a broader effort in our city, and because we just need to. I'm hoping that maybe what I could do here is provide a bit of a response to some of the staff's their responses and their challenges. I hear that we're going to have this special meeting in a PISFIS. I do think that we should cross reference to the council. I think the whole council needs to be part of this discussion. So I'm hoping that we can have a bit of a modification here, and then hopefully it'll satisfy some of those concerns. So I'm hoping that we can adopt the core of item 2 from the memo, the MBA request for strategies that council can adopt that would give the administration more budgetary resources for addressing staffing vacancies, and then add the questions that are raised in the memo by staff to the PISFIS item, at least for discussion by the PISFIS committee, and then of course a cross-reference to the full council. Is this something that would help facilitate the yellow to a green?
Lee?
Yes, Councilmember Reyes. I think that sounds like a good compromise. As I mentioned, we did add resources not too long ago, overstrength positions to help with some of this. So those could be things we could outline in the MBA as well as any kind of lessons learned given the budget reality next year that we may want to add. But certainly we can also bring your memorandum forward to that PISFIS meeting and try and talk about some of these things. So that would facilitate that. The revisions that you just spoke about, I think would facilitate a green from us.
Perfect.
I'll second that motion then.
I will make that motion. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Cohen?
Actually, I was going to make the suggestion that ended up in the motion of just going to PISFIS and just being clear that PISFIS will cross-reference at that point and decide whether a special meeting is warranted or not, but hopefully maybe come to just council without needing a special meeting.
Okay. And don't see any other hands raised, so roll call vote, please.
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Morales?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, for items C6 through C9, we're going to consolidate those, and we'll take public comment on all those items. And then we'll go bring it back to the committee for a discussion on all the items. And unless someone on the committee pulls one of those items out individually to be voted on, we will vote on all those items together. All right, so let's go to the public.
Just giving a few minutes, no hands raised right now. Again, we're taking public comment for items C6 through C9. Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I would just like to thank everyone of the San Jose community that I think there's been some really interesting, good public comment time in this December on agenda items. And I hope there can be some sort of public comment on these set of items. I don't have much to say personally, but overall, I've just been really impressed with public comment time this December and November. Thank you to everyone for their good public comments.
Back to the committee.
All right, I'm going to defer to Councilmember Arenas.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I appreciate having these all come in as one, and just to let my colleagues know that these are items that we've been all working together. Item C6 is the Lake Cunningham funding strategy. C7 is around gender-based violence in order to continue to have that funded and supported, whether I'm here or not, which I won't be. And then, what is it? Request for paid family leave. This is another item that I'm gonna have to make just a bit of a tweak. And then because joint meetings have been so successful, at least in the way that we've used them for gender-based violence and for the children's issues, and we've recently seen PISFIS and public safety from the county also have a joint meeting, which was for the very first time to talk about some cross issues. That talks about continuing in that spirit of joint meetings. So the only other one, and I apologize, this is the only other one that has that is yellow lit, and that I wanted to make a bit of some tweaks around. 4 years ago, I proposed the paid family leave program, and this is for our city employees. There wasn't one that existed. And it really came from my chief of staff at that time. He had his child, his first child. And for city employees, they just, and especially for men, didn't have the opportunity to have paid time off. It only gave employees who gave birth access to paid time off. And so we all know how important bonding is, whether you're the mother who's providing the birth, or the father who is also providing a lot of support and bonding. It's just as important for both of those folks to be available and have some paid time off. And so one of the things that limited city employees was that they really had no access to time off. And so they weren't allowed to use sick time. And so now we have a pilot program. And then of course, this team member had a second child. And so then we experienced what it was for somebody to go through the pilot program. And it offered 1 week of paid time off. And then this is where this pilot program made a difference. And that's that this person was able to use their accrued sick leave to take some weeks off, which is something that wasn't happening before and wasn't available to our employees. And so we need to make sure that there's sufficient time available for folks to have bonding time with their child. We need to make sure there's some kinks that we need to work out, because there might be some folks who have a chronic illness that may not allow them to accrue sick leave. And so what would that particular person do if they were in this situation where they were having a child and no accrued sick time, and they couldn't be part of this pilot program anymore? So with that in mind, I want to see if there's a willingness to provide some information to council and a report to council in closed session, and to maybe really lay out some of the timeframe commitments from staff about when these things will happen. We don't want to wait until June when this pilot program ends. We want to make sure that there's some negotiation that happens ahead of time, and for this to continue on, so that the dads in this scenario and those parents who are adopting children can also participate in paid time that they can use during that family leave. So I'm hoping that this is something that we can ask for. So I know that the memo, yellow, or the staff's response, yellow lights it, but I'd love to have an info memo with some of the information from the pilot, so that it can go to closed session, and figure out that meet and confer issue that has been kind of an obstacle.
Thank you, Councilmember Arenas. So I'm going to ask Lee to speak to your request, as well as the early consideration form for that item, and actually the other items as well.
Sure. On the paid family leave, I think what Councilmember Arenas outlines is something that we can do. So we would prepare an info memo to give data on the current pilot program and offer anything that we've learned from that. And then probably in March, so prior to the budget process starting and negotiations, come into closed session for any discussion and information that we can give the council. So if we can do that, we could green light it.
Okay. And can you, since we have you, can you also speak to the other?
Sure, I'm happy to. The Lake Cunningham funding strategy.
Oh,
MBA.
no, before you move on, Lee, what I'd like to know is that time frame commitment from staff on when this would happen.
Sorry,
say?
Sorry, Councilmember, you broke up. Were you asking for when the time frame would be?
Yes.
So I think we would probably do an info memo in late January or February on the current pilot program. And then we'd come into closed session prior to the budget process and negotiations starting. So that would likely be March.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I missed that.
Lee, you were about to go in there.
Sure. So Lake Cunningham MBA would be a green light. The gender-based violence MBA would also be a green light. And then the joint meetings with the county for neighborhood services and education, as well as public safety, finance, and strategic supports would be a green light. Although I will say Deputy City Manager Angel Rios and I are very interested in what committee assignments soon-to-be supervisor has as we go ahead and move forward with those.
Thank you, Lee. So
hopefully they'll match right up.
So I will entertain a motion from Councilmember Arenas for the items C6 through 9 with the changes to C8.
I think you just made my motion.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a second.
Second.
All right. I don't see. Oh, actually, I do. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you. And just to make it smooth, can the chair make a motion, or should we just give it to Councilmember Arenas?
I gave it to her. That was
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I support it, and I want to say thank you to Councilmember Arenas for her work, especially on this item C8, paid family leave. In my office, the only two staff members to have a child, actually we each had two children, was myself and David Tran from my team, while I was in office for 8 years, and it was a big hit, as Councilmember Arenas stated, to not have time off and ultimately having to take his own personal time, sick time, and so I think it's a huge need that we have. I just back to staff, that the challenge here sounds like, right, that this is a meet and confer. This is something that we just have to negotiate with the unions. We're on a pilot program. So in essence, I mean, if it's not an issue that the unions are advocating for during negotiations, it may not be made permanent. Is that an easy kind of short assumption?
I would ask Jennifer Shembri to come down and correct whatever I'm about to say, but obviously as we go into closed session, there's issues that we bring forward as well for any possible consideration. So I think we, if directed by the council next year when we do this update, it would be something that Jennifer and her team would mention, I think, in the first round of negotiations with the unions.
I guess you nailed it, Lee, because she stood up and then sat back down. Yeah, there you go.
And yeah, I get there's two sides to the coin there. Obviously, the council would have to agree to whatever we want to, offer before you come to an agreement. But I'm assuming that the council says, yes, this is something we want to offer, right? Part of the back and forth requires the unions to agree to it as well.
Yes, it does.
And we have, that was just agendized for next week, is a conversation I actually have been recusing myself from, which is the POA negotiations. I mean, is that something that was discussed there? Would that have been an appropriate time? I know we have that coming forward to us before this pilot ends. I mean, because we're obviously in negotiations with a lot of our unions now, but we happen to have that one being brought forward next week.
Jennifer Shembri, Director of Employer Relations and Human Resources. The paid parental leave program is in the POA agreement.
Okay, so then that resolves that. Thank you. Sorry to make you come down. That's it. I appreciate all the directions. I had a similar thought on my on my way out here in wanting to ensure that certain work could be continued, and was able to sneak in an MBA on sanctioned encampments a couple weeks ago. So for good measure, I could add another one now, but I think that the one of them's good enough. So, but appreciate the work here by Councilmember Arenas and the legacy that she's leaving, and hopefully a lot of this work can continue next year.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Yes, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. No other hands are raised, so can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yeah, could we quickly clarify the motion? So C6, C7, and C9 were adopted as is in accordance with the early consideration response forms, and C8 was changed. Would you mind repeating the change to C8, please?
Sure, that staff will develop informational memorandum that goes out in the February timeframe, and that we would, second part would be that staff would come forward in closed session in March prior to the budget process or negotiations commencing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, roll. Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
If I may, can I ask for a point of personal privilege just before you go to open forum?
Yes.
Very quickly, I just want to first thank my colleagues, Councilmembers Arenas and Perales, for serving with me on this body. I'll miss you, but I particularly want to thank our chair, Vice Chair Jones, who's done a great job chairing this committee in the 2 years that I've been on it. It's been a role model for me and given me a good lesson on how to be a great, efficient chair. And so I want to thank you in the last meeting in your tenure as Vice Mayor of San Jose.
Thank you. We are now on to open forum.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Wow, it's like the last meeting. Unbelievable. Thank you to the work of Councilpersons Arenas, Perales, and Jones for all their years of service and good work. And boy, it's been quite an experience for myself, and I'm sure for yourselves as well. And I hope you can take the practices of openness and accountability, what's possible in its future, to heart, and know that our positive selves are really possible with its good guidelines and efforts. My final reminder on the subject, hopefully can be of help. And just a thank you. In the previous item, I thanked just our everyday community for how much they've been attending public comment times recently with really good public comment. A thank you to city government staff and to city council themselves who've come up with really good agenda items. That I think it's just been a really good community effort in these past couple of months at council meetings and committee meetings. And just a thank you for that. I hope this sort of vibrancy can continue into next year. And good luck to what we'll be doing with our lives in the coming year of 23. And boy, good luck to ourselves in 24 and 25. That's, I think, going to be the really important years that we really all start to make a real important difference. And good luck how that can go and the steps we do in 2023 to get to those important good years of 24 and 25. Thanks again for everybody's good work. And boy, happy December. And thanks for all the years of service to everyone.
Paul Soto?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I was really impacted by that video that was shown. There was no warning. I was thrust. There was no label in the memo. There was nothing that would indicate that that violent sexual assault attack was going to be played in a very public forum and meeting. This mayor traumatized me again. I was sexually assaulted as a child. I was sexually assaulted recently when that cop went ahead and called the probation to have me arrested because I was a victim of a sexual assault. And then I was sexually assaulted in jail. And then this mayor exposed me once again. He exposed all of us to a violent sexual assault with absolutely zero warning, absolutely no consideration at all for any of the victims in the public that have PTSD and are triggered by things like that. That's how ruthless he is. This happened once before, and I was locked up because of that too. A councilman called the cops. 10 undercover officers arrested me because I had a PTSD episode inside of a movie theater where there was absolutely no warning given because he didn't even screen the video before he showed it. That I was violently attacked inside Juvenile Hall. I was watching on this display what exactly happened to me. Again, no warning. No warning to the public at all. You guys, and then you sit there and you moralize and you act like, oh, we are the protectors. That was a violent assault on the community, and the mayor needs to accept responsibility for that. That was a violent assault on the community and the victims of sexual assaults. And to the council, the chair that's leaving.
Back to the committee.
Thank you for the last time. I'll be able to say this meeting is adjourned, but before I do, I just want to express my gratitude for the city clerk's office, the city manager's office, the attorney, and especially my colleagues that have served with me on this rules committee. Good people do good work, and I really appreciate everything that everyone's doing. So on that note, this meeting is adjourned.